This afternoon, we've got Margaret Vail presenting an introduction to data repositories and Dataverse. Margaret Vail is an academic librarian and acting systems librarian at St. Francis Xavier University in Nova Scotia. Her background is in computer science, and she's involved in furthering the cause of research data management. All right, so I will move it over to you, Margaret. Thanks very much.
Okay. Let's just see if I can get the right PowerPoint to show up. Do you see the slides is in a presentation format?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks great.
So I know you're all here for a talk titled The Introduction to Data Repositories in Dataverse, but the real title is What is Dataverse and Why is Everyone Talking About It? And Other Repositories. So as mentioned, my name is Margaret Vail, and I am a data and systems librarian at St. Francis Xavier University. So today I'm going to talk about why is everyone talking about Dataverse? What is Dataverse? Dataverse is at CAAL universities, other data repositories such as Federated Research Data Repository, and we will be doing a demo of Dataverse. So why is everyone talking about Dataverse? That is because the Tri-Agency released a draft policy in the spring of 2018. And they have announced that incremental implementations of this policy is expected to begin in late 2019, but now we're into 2020, so maybe soon. I have to say I wasn't at any of the earlier presentations, so that may have been updated to everyone who attended it, but this is as far as I know at the moment. So the tri-agency policy is made up of 3 pillars: the institutional strategy, data management plans, and deposit. Dataverse fulfills the deposit requirement of the policy, which is that grant recipients are required to deposit into a recognized digital repository all digital research, data, metadata, and code that directly support research conclusions in journal publications and other outputs that arise from agency-supported research. So that is why everyone is talking about Dataverse. What is Dataverse? It is a research data repository software where you can store, share, publish, and discover research data. It is open to everyone in the world, and it is an open source platform developed by IQSS at Harvard University. The current CAAL universities that use Dataverse, and I am going to specify that I could find yesterday, are Cape Breton University, Dalhousie University, Memorial University, St. Francis Xavier University, and the University of New Brunswick. The University of Prince Edward Island is using their own Islandora data repository built on top of the Islandora framework. According to Harvard's website, who uses Dataverse? The subject area that uses Dataverse the most at the moment, and this is out of all Dataverses registered with Harvard, is genetic resource by a far huge amount. Social sciences, medicine, earth and environmental sciences, arts and humanities, agricultural science, physics, computer and information science. Now, what is really interesting is that when I last gave a similar presentation, I had this still in my slides, and this is from May 2019. So that genetic resources came out of nowhere and is now dominating Dataverse. But if you take that out of the equation, the majority of users using it are in the social sciences. So let's talk a little bit about Dataverse terminology. So we have Dataverse versus Dataverse. So this means that we have Dataverse, the Dataverse project, which a lot of people refer to as Dataverse. And this is the open source software, and that was created at Harvard University. It is also the website URLs that you go to, such as Scholars Portal Dataverse. And then we have Dataverse, which exists inside the Dataverse project. And you consider these collections, but they're also called dataverses. So here's an example. We have Scholars Portal Dataverse, and it is a box. Within Scholars Portal Dataverse, we have Cape Breton University, which is also a dataverse, Dalhousie, Memorial, and SaintFX. All of these are dataverses that live inside the Scholars Portal Dataverse. And then we have more dataverses. So dataverses can have more dataverses. So Cape Breton University can have their research project team 1 dataverse, a second one, a third one. Memorial can have the same amount, dataverse 1, 2, and 3 for each research project or team that is that might need to have their own dataverse for a specific reason. So to recap, let's try thinking about it like this. We have Dataverse, Dataverse, and Dataverse. But instead, think about it as Dataverse as a software name or a website. And the first level and the second level of Dataverse is actually a collection. And then the third level of Dataverse is a sub-collection. And here's the official diagram that came from Harvard University. So we have our Dataverse box, which is a container. So this would be like Scholars Portal, and it is a container for one or more dataverses and one or more data sets. And then we have a data set, which is a container for your data, documentation, and code. And it also contains descriptive metadata. So there are some other data repositories around. We have the Federated Research Data Repository, FRDR, and I believe you had a presentation that would have gone more in depth on this. We have our multidisciplinary data repositories, such as Dryad, Figshare, Zenodo, and the Harvard Dataverse. And we have discipline-specific data repositories, which you can find using the r3data.org website. So what are the differences between these these repositories? I found this chart on the University of Toronto Library website, and I feel like it describes it the best. So I think the major differences are cost and size limits. So if you use your own university's Dataverse, there's no fees involved, but you do have a size limit on your upload of 3 gigabytes per file. But you can also upload multiple files. And then you have FRDR, which is free for researchers affiliated with a Canadian institution, and they can take really large data files. Dryad, Figshare, and Zenodo are paid repositories because they're not associated with an actual institution. They popped up to fill needs in the data repository business. So some of them offer free accounts, but they are very limited. Figshare has 1 gigabyte for no cost. Zenodo encourages donations, which is fantastic, and they do have a size limit of 50 gigabytes per data set. And Dryad is a completely paid service. So I feel like this is the most important thing to consider when you are choosing a data repository. So a little bit about the Federated Research Data Repository, FRDR. It is a collaboration between Portage, Compute Canada, and the Canadian Association of Research Libraries. It is a single platform from which Canadian research data can be ingested, curated, preserved, discovered, cited, and shared. What is really great about FRDR is no matter what data repository you deposit your data in that is affiliated with a Canadian university, your data can be discovered in FRDR, even if you didn't upload it there yourself. So it is a great place to go if you are searching for data. So when would you want to use FRDR as a depositor? FRDR is where you can deposit your data to meet the tri-agency data policy. If your institution doesn't have its own Dataverse or alternate data repository solution, and if your file sizes are greater than 3 gigabytes or what your institution Dataverse supports. When should you use FRDR as a data seeker? This is a great place to go if you want to search for data in all of the Canadian Dataverse and alternate Canadian affiliated data repository implementations. So why should you use Dataverse, and why did all the institutions pick it? Or the institutions that pick it, why did they do it? Well, it's because Dataverse supports the FAIR data principles of findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. It also follows the idea of as open as possible, as closed as necessary. It provides secure data management, but also effective sharing. Dataverse supports long-term access and preservation. Every institution that has a Dataverse is committing to keep it running long-term and provide the long-term access and preservation. It increases your research visibility, and it provides you with a persistent identifier for your data in the form of a DOI, which a lot of journals are now asking to have DOIs to your data. I just see something flashing. I don't know if that's a question.
There is one question there, but would you prefer to save questions till the end, or do you want to take questions as they come in?
Well, I'll take this question as it comes in and then maybe save the rest till the end because I already stopped sharing my presentation.
Okay, so this question is, why is there only a small presence of health sciences, 4.9% to 11% using Dataverse?
That is a good question, and unfortunately, I do not know the answer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Like Jasmine mentioned, some of the data uses bigger data sets, and it's bigger than what is allowable in Dataverse. Some already have established repositories like discipline repositories, which Margaret mentioned and might talk about a little bit later. Kim Mears says perhaps patient confidentiality. So a lot of the data that health sciences would use would not really be applicable to be shared because it might be patient data, things like that. So I think that there are a lot of reasons. I know Dataverse started out, like Margaret said, as in the humanities and social sciences. So it's now it's broadening out into other areas now. Erin or Kim, anybody, did you want to add anything to that?
It's Erin. Oops. Oh, sorry, it's Erin. My mic just dropped. I think, yeah, I would think confidentiality and sensitive information. But I know there's growing ways to share that kind of differently, just to share even the metadata that the data itself exists, not necessarily sharing the data itself. So we might see more uptake that way. That may be, I would think that would be a reason why we haven't seen so much.
Yeah, and to add on to the patient confidentiality, well, I'm having, can't speak right now, but the confidentiality aspect is that a lot of it takes anonymization, and that's a lot of time and effort to put into it. So I think that some people just don't go after the project and do that to be able to share it. So.
Yeah, those are all really good reasons, and it's good to have everyone else on the panel to help back me up with the questions. So there is a major flaw with Dataverse, and it's that it cannot hold private, confidential, or other legally protected information, such as personally identifiable information. And as everyone was saying on the panel, this is probably one of the major reasons why health sciences data isn't using Dataverse as much. So I'm going to do a demo using Scholars Portal Dataverse. And I'm using Scholars Portal Dataverse because most of the CAAL universities that are using Dataverse are hosting it through Scholars Portal. So this is what the Scholars Portal Dataverse looks like. If you go directly to their website, you'll get this splash screen, which will let you find out more information about Scholars Portal Dataverse, explore individual Dataverses, and search Dataverse. If you choose to browse to explore Dataverse, you will be brought to their Dataverse homepage, where you'll see different information such as all of the university Dataverses in this scrolling banner. You're able to search Dataverse. You have the advanced search. Sorry, just one second. Don't know what happened here, but I do not like the transitions. They're driving me crazy. Are you seeing my slides again?
Yep.
Okay. So you can also filter. And by filtering, you can filter on Dataverses, data sets, or individual files. You have the different categories, such as organization, research project, researcher, publication year, authors, the subject area that the Dataverse is for, keywords, and deposit date. You can also sort the search results based on name, newest, and the date that it was added. Another cool feature is that anyone can come in and click on the metrics for the Scholars Portal Dataverse and any Dataverse that you're looking at. So you can see the Dataverse downloads by month. You can see the number of data sets by Dataverse. So in the Scholars Portal Dataverse, Carleton University has the highest number of data sets. And most of these are Ontario-based because Scholars Portal is based out of Ontario. But here we have the University of Regina making it into the list, and the University of British Columbia. Based on the size of Dataverses, you can see that the University of Toronto uses the most gigabytes. And you can see what type of files that people are depositing. So we have text files, PDF files, applications, which is probably code, images, videos, zip files, Excel, Word, audio. And then you can see the breakdown of subject categories. And again, you'll notice that social science is the largest user at about 42%. And Harvard Dataverse does agree with that as long as you remove the genetic component. And I'm wondering if a lot of those genetic data sets have anything to do with COVID, but that is pure speculation. So if we take a look at Carleton University's Dataverse, you can see that they have their contact information. What's really great is if you click contact from Carleton University's Dataverse, you actually contact someone at the Carleton University. You'll also notice that this part of their page is very customizable. So they've added information on how to use the Carleton University Dataverse, what kind of data they accept, who to contact for help. And they've also added their own list of Dataverses that they have within the Carleton University Dataverse. So again, you can search within this Dataverse. So you're going to be searching down. You're not going to be searching at the top level. You'll be searching from the Carleton University level and down. You can filter. Again, it's going to be from Carleton University and what is within their Dataverse, not across the whole thing. Sort your data. Any Dataverses that are anything that is highlighted in orange in your list of results is going to be a Dataverse, and anything in blue is a data set. You can, at this point, you can also add data. So let's take a look at a Dataverse within Carleton University's Dataverse. So this example is using the Canadian Media Concentration Research Project Dataverse. What's great about this is they can do their own custom branding. So they have chosen a color for their banner and they've added their logo. They also have a text area where they can add in information about their project and the project description. Again, you get search, filter, sort of the search results. And again, you have your contact, and this contact will go to the Canadian Media Concentration Research Project and not to Carleton University. So you have your data set in blue. So let's click onto the data set and take a look at it. We have our title, citation information. We have the metrics, so we can see how many times this data set has been downloaded. We have a description, keyword or subject, keywords, and related publication. So this is useful if this data was a part of a research paper that got published into a journal. They can add the link to the journal right to the data set. So we have our list of files within the data set. And we're able to explore the data online, which is really cool. Although this data set lets us explore it online, the information provided would need a data dictionary to be able to understand what it means. But the information is there, and it's a really great tool to use. You can also download the data. You can download it in its original format, but you can also download it in other formats. So the original uploaded format was Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, but you can also download it as tab delimited RDA format, the variable metadata, and the data file citation. We have the metadata about the data, and we have a tab on terms. So this is the terms of use that tells you how you can use this data. So this data has been licensed as a Creative Commons license. Currently, it is using Creative Commons 0, which is a public domain dedication, which means you can do whatever you want with the data. Here is a chart of the different Creative Commons licenses. So the one we just saw is using a public domain license, which means you can copy and publish the data. You don't have to attribute it. You can use it for commercial use. You can modify and adapt it, and you can change the license on your modifications and adaptations. If you do not want to leave Creative Commons 0 license, you can look at any of these other options. So this one here, for example, CC by NCSA means that you can copy and publish it. Attribution is required. You're not allowed to use it for commercial use. You can modify and adapt it, but you cannot change the license on your modifications and adaptations. There is also a guest book feature. This particular record is not using a guest book, so I went and found one that was. So if you did want to look at this record that has a guest book, you can use this URL on the screen. So what a guest book does is if someone downloads the data, it prompts them to fill out some information. And as a publisher of the data, you can choose what information that you want the user to provide. So for this record, they want people that download to save information about their institution, which they said is a required field. Their name, their email, and their position are all optional. And what this does is it can provide a little bit more statistics for the publisher of the data to find out who is using their data. You can also restrict files. So this is an example from that same record of where there are file restrictions. And there are different ways that you can restrict the files. You'll notice that this one is using request access. So users can request access to the files. They will get a pop-up that's similar to the guest book, which will ask them to explain the purpose and why they need to use and why they are requesting the restricted files and what they plan on using them for. Dataverse also records versions, which is can be extremely helpful. Again, here in this example, my original example didn't really have any versions, but in the second example, we see this View Differences button. If you click on that, you can see the actual changes between the data set. So you can see that they updated the data on August 20th, where it was originally deposited on the 25th. It tells you a little bit about what was changed. So they updated the metadata in the description. Oops. I was trying to scroll down like it was a web page. And it also is telling you like that they made changes to the file. So they changed it from originally uploaded as not restricted, but on August 20th, they changed it to restricted. So there's a lot of really good information that you can get from the version history. So next, I thought we could do a bit of a demo, and I wasn't sure how long my presentation was going to be, so that's why I said if we have time. So this link on the screen is to the demo. Oh, no, actually, that's the wrong URL. I will update it before it gets shared. We're going to do the demo on the demo Scholars Portal. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to pull up the Demo Scholars Portal. Or we'll just do it on the demo Dataverse. Okay, let's reshare my screen. So this is the demo Dataverse that is probably hosted at Harvard University. And we're going to talk about how you can create an account. So to create an account, you're going to come up here and click on Sign Up. You're going to want to put in a username. And I'm going to generate a random password. And agree to the terms of use. Since I already have an account, I may have lost my password because I already updated it. Well, let's take some questions. And I am going to just reset my password so we can continue with this demo.
Oh, no. All right, so are there any questions? Let me look in the chat here. So, okay. What are the differences between Dataverse and other databases such as CINAHL, PubMed, and EBSCO? Since Margaret is resetting your password and stuff, would you like me to take that one?
Yes, thank you.
While you're doing that? Okay, sure. Okay, so Dataverse is a database where you can store your research data, whereas CINAHL and PubMed and EBSCO, well, CINAHL and PubMed are databases that have research articles, so articles that journals publish and things like that. You can find those in CINAHL and PubMed. EBSCO is actually a publisher or a provider. So I know at Memorial, we get CINAHL through the publisher EBSCO. So the interface basically is EBSCO, and what you're searching is CINAHL. I hope that makes sense. So EBSCO is kind of like, the company behind the scenes that sets up the interface, and then CINAHL is the ones who provide all of the indexing for the research articles. And that would be like PubMed as well. And then Dataverse holds the related research data. So your data sets, so your Excel spreadsheets that have all of your data that you've collected, that's where you would put your data. And then the articles you would find in CINAHL and PubMed. I hope that clears that up. Does that answer that question? Anybody want to add anything to that? Oh, another note is that most publisher databases are for-profit companies. Exactly. And Dataverse is an open source software, so it is not a for-profit company.
Thank you for answering that question, Allison. I knew that there was a lot to talk about there, and I needed to think about resetting my password.
No problem. So are there any other questions? Well,
do data set mean the collected data? So when we're talking about a data set, we're talking about when a researcher does their research and they collect data. So if they were collecting temperature or wind speed data and putting it into a data set that they are using for their research, and then they get that, then they write an article about it and get it published. That data that they use to support their article is a data set.
Okay, great. So, oh, you're in now.
Okay,
perfect.
So I'm logged in now to the demo Dataverse, and some of the things that I'm going to be showing you, pretty much everything I'm going to be showing you here is available. You are able to get help from your local research data management team at your university. So you may not have to create your own Dataverse. You may only end up adding your own data sets. So for my example, I'm going to create a new Dataverse. But this is usually going to be done by your university RDM team. So I'm not going to go into too much details about what I pick here. And I have my demo Dataverse. Now what I can do is I have the ability to customize this Dataverse. So I can go into Edit, and I can choose Theme and Widgets. At this point, I can upload a logo. And I can choose the different colors. So if I want to give demo Dataverse a tagline. I could say Margaret's demo Dataverse of cool data. I can give it my website, which is library.stfx.ca. I can change the colors. I don't know how horrible it's going to look, but I can change them. And then I can click on Save. I didn't end up uploading an image because the file size I tried to upload was too big, but you should be able to find the dimensions and upload the image yourself. I can add data to it by clicking on this Add Data option and choose a new data set. So there are data set templates that you can pick. Your university probably has a data set template already chosen for you specifically. And then I can just fill out the information. So amazing, cool data. And I am the author. If pre-filled that in for me, my affiliation, what identifier I want to use, I can put in my ORCID ID and put in my ORCID number. My contact information, and you want to add your description. And the date. I can choose the subjects that my data is in. I guess library is not an option. I'll just choose computer and information science. And keywords could be library. You can also choose what classification scheme you want your terms to be from. So you could use the Library Congress subject headings. You could use MESH. You could use Dublin Core, or you could use Darwin Core if you were in biology. This is where you can add in your related publications. So if you actually published an article based on this data, this is where you can add that in. And then you can select files to add. So I'm just going to pick something hopefully that doesn't mean anything, and I can just post it online. I'm going to add the check for full text at StFX image. But normally you would probably be adding CSVs, Excel documents. You can still add images, that there's no issue with adding it. And then I'm going to click Save Dataset. So now I have my dataset online, and I can click on this check for full text at X dataset, and I can read more information about it. I can explore it on View Image. So you can see that this is a screenshot I took for one of the classes that I was teaching. I can view the metadata on the record. By default, it set it as a Creative Commons public domain waiver. But I can edit the terms requirements by clicking on this. And this is where I can select my own Creative Commons license. So I can say, yes, apply the Creative Commons 0 public domain. And then I can say, no, do not apply it. And then if you choose not to apply it, you have to decide on what data license you're using. If you would like to use a different data license, you can go and search for Creative Commons license and read about all of the different licenses available from Creative Commons. So what you would want to do is just choose a license. Normally, it helps you choose your license, what type of license you might want to do. But you would pick your license and then you can just copy and paste it into this terms of use section. You can add more details if there's confidentiality, restrictions, citation requirements. You can add information about if any of your files are restricted or not. So you can check the enabled access request button if you want people to request access to the data. And you can choose to turn on your guest book or not, and preview what information is requested. So I'm going to click on Save Changes. So now my data is restricted. Oh no, I didn't select that. But you can see if this was a real terms of use, you're able to see what the terms of use is, and you can preview the guest book. And then if someone chooses to download your data, they're going to have to fill out the guest book information. So let's go back to my presentation to see if I showed you everything. So we talked about creating an account, creating a Dataverse, customizing your Dataverse, and uploading a data set to Dataverse. So I also have an exercise that you can try this yourself, probably after the presentation, because we're getting close to the end. And you can go to the exercise URL. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I saved it in Google Drive and everyone should have access to it. But if you want to try this on your own after the presentation, we have an exercise about going to Dataverse and finding information. So you can go to Scholars Portal, look for a specific Dataverse, view the data, find out the citation information, the data deposit date. And then there's a second exercise where you're going to create your own data repository, Dataverse portal. And I have added links to more information on how to do each of the steps if you need additional help. So if you are ready and you want to start depositing into your local Dataverse, this is when you're going to want to contact your university library. Yesterday, when I went to this link, I saw the list of all the data contacts across Canada at universities, but it did not work today. Let's just see if it works now. No, it didn't find it. So I'm hoping that this webpage is going to go back up.
Margaret, Portage just released their new version of their website today. So it may be that that link is different today than it was yesterday.
Yeah, I tried to find it.
So I'm going to try to find it.
Yeah, I tried to find it because I thought maybe that was the case, but we will update everyone on what the new link is. And that's crazy that they just published it today because I did try that link yesterday. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, so there is a question. There's a few questions here in the chat. So can a researcher use a data set of another researcher?
Yes, you can. That's why researchers are putting their data into Dataverse. But you do need to consider, oh, thank you, Lydia. Okay, you do need to consider what requirements the researcher has put on their data. So when you're looking at a Dataverse that you are interested in using, so I'm going to go to Scholars Portal Dataverse. And I'm just going to look at this COVID-19 fact checkers data set. So what you do need to do if you're interested in using someone else's data set for your research is you have to come and click on their terms and see what license they have given their data. So this data has the Creative Commons public license. So essentially you can do whatever you want with it. Other data sets that are following the other Creative Commons licenses, you do need to follow the rules associated with those licenses. So I'll just pull up that chart again.
Okay, and while you're finding that, could you explain again what the term deposit means?
So the term deposit is what we call when you upload your data set. So when we say deposit your data, we really mean upload your data to Dataverse or to another data repository.
Thanks, and I see you found your Creative Commons license there, so if you wanted to.
So for example, if they use a Creative Commons public domain license, you can use it for pretty much whatever you want and you don't need to attribute it. If you want to use someone's data if they're using a CC BY license, it means that you can use your data for whatever you want, but you do have to attribute it in your research. If they use a CC BY NC, which NC stands for non-commercial, you can't use it for commercial use. And so you do need to pay attention to what licenses people choose and what the terms are when they deposit their data.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So the next question is, in what format can you upload data sets in Dataverse? And again, as Kim Mears points out, that another way to think of uploading is that you're publishing your data and making it available online. So what kind of data sets can you make available online? Thanks.
I don't know if there is a limit on the formats that you can use to upload your data. I'm sure there's a list somewhere. So you could contact your research data management team at your university and they should be able to find you a list of formats, but I think you can upload almost any format that your data exists in. But it is always better to upload your data in an open format. So for example, there are some data formats like SAS or SPSS where you can only open them in paid software. So it's better to upload your data in a format that is usable with all software. So maybe a better example would be Excel spreadsheets. Yes, you can upload your data into an Excel spreadsheet, but people generally have to pay for Excel to use it. If you upload it into a CSV, they can use it in any spreadsheet software, or they could look at it in a Word document. So it's always better to use data formats that are free and easier for people to use, but it is not a requirement. You can still upload Excel files and paid files.
And you might want to look on your institution's RDM guide or something like that. They might have a list of preferred formats, or they may have links to lists of preferred formats. I know Memorial's guide has that in our research data management guide. So you can take a look there. Okay, so next question. How long would the data set be stored in Dataverse?
So when we are adding so the universities that support data repositories are saying that they're going to support them forever, or that's what their intentions are. So the data sets are definitely going to be available for 5 to 10 years, hopefully for longer, hopefully forever. That is the goal of the data repositories. And maybe
and that's another thing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I said, I guess it is also possible that you should check with your university because their research data management policy might specify a number of years where they promise to keep the data.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you want to think about at the beginning of your project, like Aaron and Melissa were talking about earlier today with their data management plans. You want to think about, do you want to share it only for 5 or 10 years, or do you want to then ensure that it gets transferred over to a preservation file format like Archivematica? And Jeff Moon was talking about the differences this morning between repository storage for sharing versus preservation storage for like disaster recovery and things like that. So if you wanted to refresh a little bit on that, you could watch that presentation, or you can always get in touch with a librarian at your university and we can help you out with figuring that kind of stuff out.
Oh, can I add to that? It's Erin. I know we're part of a working group that's looking at things like that across Canada, and they're really institution specific at this point as well. There are some repositories internationally that have set guidelines. Your data will be shared and stored for so many years after the project ends. And after that, a decision would have to be made whether it's going to be removed or go for long-term preservation. But these are, you know, ongoing policy discussions that that would happen. But right now, you know, they're available. They're publicly available, and yeah, still under development.
Thank you. The next question is, if I'm looking to use Dataverse for research or a lab Dataverse with multiple projects, Dataverses, but my institution is not listed under Scholars Portal, can I still use Dataverse or should I try further?
I would recommend contacting the research data management team or librarian at Acadia University. I know that I believe Maggie is the contact at Acadia, and she would know what Acadia's intentions are if they are planning to create a Dataverse. If they are planning to create a Dataverse, I'm sure they would love to have you as a first case so that they can start using it. Yes, Megan Nielsen, thank you. And she would also be able to advise you if you should be considering Scholars Portal or Further or another data repository. So even if they don't have a plan for a Dataverse, she will have knowledge and be able to best advise you on what you should do.
Okay, thanks very much. Are there any other questions for Margaret? I have a question. So you said when you showed us the demo, the default was to have a Creative Commons 0 license where it's saying you don't have to provide attribution, you don't have to cite that data set. Why is it that that is the default? I would think that perhaps it would be the next one, the CC BY, that, you know, is as open as possible, but they expect attribution. Do you know why that's the default?
It is the default because the original idea behind Dataverse is to make things completely open and in the public domain. So I don't know, Allison, I feel like you might be able to answer this question a little bit better than me, but I know why you asked it.
No, I can't answer this question. I don't really know.
Oh, okay. Then it is because the original project wanted all of the data sets to be in the public domain. And so they have changed it so that if you want to use a different license, you have to choose it yourself to try and encourage people to put their data up as public domain.
And this is Erin, I can add to that. Even when you go on the user guide itself, it will say, you know, it defaults to the CCO, but in the guide, it always says good practice shows that we'll always give credit when using a resource, even if it's not a CC BY, it's still good academic practice to give credit.
Okay, any other questions? That was a great presentation, Margaret. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Margaret, sorry, it's Erin again. I just wanted to thank you for your really clear explanation about why the word Dataverse is confusing with date, because that's the best way I've seen it explained. And it's been brought up at, you know, the community meetings and, you know, every time anyone talks about Dataverse, but that is so helpful.
Yeah, feel free to take that, because when I was looking back, because I have given a similar presentation before, and when I was looking back at my slides, I saw that I was just using the Dataverse provided graphics, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so confusing. So I was trying to figure out what I could do to make it clearer.
This is much clearer. Your explanation is very clear.
Feel free to take it back to the working group and share it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I really like that explanation as well. A colleague and I were chatting and saying it's ridiculous how many times you can use the word Dataverse in one sentence.
Yeah, and mean 3 different things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing I think to point out here is, like Margaret said a few times, contact your institution's research data management person, and they can help you with Dataverse, or even with that other question, help you with finding maybe a disciplinary repository to put your research data in as well.
And I'm going to update this link right now so that when I provide Cynthia with my slides, that she can have the new link in it. And then you can find your RDM contacts.
Great, thank you.
And you
so
know
much.
what? That's why I wouldn't have been able to find it when I was searching Google, because it wouldn't have been indexed yet with the new URL.
Yeah, absolutely.